The following may contain offensive language, adult humor, and or content that some viewers may find offensive. The views and opinions expressed by any one speaker does not explicitly or necessarily reflect or represent those of Mark Radulich or W2M Network. Please listen with caution, or don't listen at all.
Valley, hooey Hollywood, where any office boy or young mechanic can be a panic with just a good-looking pan. And any barmaid can be a star maid if she dances with or without a plan. Hooray for Hollywood, where you're terrific if you're even good. Where anyone at all from Shirley Temple to Amy Semple is equally understood. Go out and try your luck.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, you are listening to a Radulich Broadcasting premiere podcast, Damn You Hollywood. And here's your host, Mr. Hang On himself, ladies and gentlemen, the hangiest of hanger-ons, Robert Winfree. Yay!
Yeah, I gotta find another linguistic crutch than that one.
It's been going on for a while there, pal.
I know. I need to find another one.
What you need to do is remember that, yes, you're smart, but we talk to an audience, and sometimes they need to be brought along a little bit slower, genius. And so you have to be a little bit more patient.
No.
All right, fuck you then. Anyway, introduce the show, monkey.
I give our audience the credit that they can keep up with our discussion.
They can't. I've talked to our audience.
Well, then.
Audience of one.
Well, tonight, everyone, we're welcoming back Jason Teasley. It's been a bit, Jason. How you doing?
Doing good. Yeah, it has been a while since I've joined you guys on the Damn You Hollywood. But it's nice to be back.
What made you want to do? We're talking Furiosa tonight and Mad Max Saga. What made you want to jump on this one in particular?
Because I have a secret fascination with you and Robert and summer blockbuster movies. So why not jump on to...
You weren't here for Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. You weren't here for Fall Guy.
Yeah, I said blockbuster movies.
Well, this one isn't that either.
This one isn't that either.
Show up next week. Talk to Alexis and Zach about Garfield. Then you'll be on the blockbuster.
This was pitched as a blockbuster.
They all were.
Well, in my heart of hearts, this is what I thought was going to be my kickoff to the summer blockbuster.
Oh, so
That's
it's
fair.
big
That's
money,
fair.
Jason Teasley. I only come on for the big movies.
Well, all I'm going to say is highest rated show on the Radulich Broadcasting Network. I was on.
I wish.
Baby Metal.
I wish this had vodka in it. You all drive me to drink. Speaking of drinking, Robert, did you know she was a dentist? But also that Furiosa, a Mad Max Saga, is a 2024 Australian post-apocalyptic film, action film directed and produced by George Miller, who wrote the screenplay with Nico Lathouris. It is the fifth installment in the Mad Max franchise, serving as a prequel and spin-off to Mad Max Fury Road, focusing on the character Imperator Furiosa. It stars Anya Taylor-Joy, Alyla Browne as the younger versions of Furiosa, Chris Hemsworth doing his jazz impersonation, and Tom Burke doing his impersonation of Aragorn.
Best thing about this movie is Chris Hemsworth. Just let's get that out of the way.
And his shoulder shuffle. Do you have it in there to make it epic, baby? Like he's like fucking half Austin Powers, and I don't know. Furiosa, a Mad Max Saga, premiered at the 77th Cannes Film Festival on May 15th, 2024. It was released in theaters in Australia by Warner Brothers and Village Roadshow Pictures, May 23rd, 2024, and in the United States the following day. The film received positive reviews from critics, but had a slow opening weekend at the box office, grossing $65 million worldwide. Let me just say this. Hang on. Let me Robert is gonna fly here and fucking punch me right in the dick.
I'll wait. I don't need to fly there. I'll wait.
Okay. Let me just say this, and we'll touch on it briefly, and then Robert get into the plot synopsis. I swear to God, we're not doing 10 minutes on this, but
yeah.
Fury Road came out in 2015. We talked about it at the time. The discussion between the two of us was simply, this was great. This was a lot of fun. This probably isn't the best action movie of all time.
It's
And then I turned around, and all the film bros were like, "It's the best action movie of all time." And I'm like, "It's a 2-hour fucking car chase." And look, there's a debate. Stop. There's a debate to be had over the nuance of that film. We've had it. We've talked about it. I have done the same speech before. I say this to set up the following. Once it was done, if you want to go back and flush out the world that Tom Hardy's Mad Max and Charlize Theron's Furiosa were in at that time, if you would like to expand on this world in some way and kind of show the greater kingdoms of Imperator Joe, that's fine. Immortan Joe. You had 2 to 4 years to get that done. After 2 to 4 years, no one's going to care anymore. And if you really have to do it, you have to do something different than Fury Road, not Fury Road with a girl. And that's 55% of my problem with this movie, is that it took 9 years to do a movie that should have only been 2 to 4, and they didn't take the time to do anything with it besides what we already saw with Fury Road. But it was like somebody compared it to George Lucas's Star Wars, where, you know, he had this really long epic tale with all of this world building, but he only focused on the middle part, and that's what became the big success that turned a bunch of poor innocent children into, you know, insufferable nerds. Anywho, so
we all know you're one of them, Mark. It's okay. That's why you can make the joke and I can't.
Sure. And then he went back and did the prequels, and, you know, went downhill from there. It's kind of this. It's almost the same thing here, where it was like you took the best parts of whatever thing you were trying to do, and you did Fury Road with it, and you didn't know that that's all anyone ever wanted. Nobody else wants to know how this world works. Nobody, and I'm saying this now instead of in the craft review where it kind of belongs, but I'm going to throw it out there, let Robert respond to it, and have Jason have the last word, and then you can do the plot synopsis. Nobody gives a shit how this world works. Nobody cares. What made Fury Road was that it was awesome. And what made it awesome? It was cars on fire driving fast in a desert. And Tom Hardy strapped to one of them like a hood ornament and a flaming guitar. I mean, it was like 2 hours of just nonstop crazy action and like awesome practical stunts. It was great. I get all that. And I get why people think it's better than it really is. But that's the best part of it. Not this world, not this fucking desert landscape that we've been to 3 previous times. Not, you know, this post-apocalyptic world. Nobody cares how it all works. And it's not like we haven't seen a dozen other movies in the post-apocalypse. Like, we get all of that. If Fury Road doesn't have a 2-hour most awesomest car chase of all time, nobody gives a shit about that movie either. And that is why one of the 20 reasons this thing is underperforming at the box office. You want to rebut any of that, Robert?
Let me add to it very briefly. What makes Fury Road awesome is not just the effects. Don't get me wrong; they're great, and seeing as much of it done practically as possible is superb. Fury Road works because, and it has somewhat endured, because there's a good human story at the core of it. And it's wrapped up in the insanity. And again, this is the magic that makes it work. It's insane. It is batshit insane. But it's in a world that's gone insane, and we're just told the story of a burned out woman who's desperately trying to do something good with her life and get away from the worst things that this world has to offer, and maybe again find something to justify and redeem the terrible things that she's done in her life. And this profoundly broken, feral man who is reminded of his own humanity through the course of this journey. And
for a 4th time.
You can't...
Third time. You can't count the first one.
Well, 1, you can't count the first one. 2, you can't look at the Mad Max Saga as the Mad Max series is not the same character really each time.
No, he's no, I'm being somewhat facetious. He's by far worse than Fury Road. So point taken. Keep going.
Well, and Miller's conception about the Mad Max stories is not that this is one journey. This is not watching Luke Skywalker go from farm boy to Jedi rebuilding the Order. These are, he envisions them as campfire stories about this mythical Mad Max figure.
Sure, he's like Paul Bunyan in the desert with a hot,
yeah,
you know,
yeah, kind of like that, or
with
James
a charger,
Bond, or James Bond. Like James Bond is always James Bond, but it is this weird like alchemy of human story told with wonderful subtlety and in a very Fury Road is about as tight a script as you're going to find for a 2-hour film. Mm-hmm. That is a lot of stunt work. It is superbly streamlined.
Yes. Everything Furiosa isn't.
In a lot of respects, yes.
And that's why we're talking about this, because why Fury Road works and Furiosa really doesn't. Not that it's a bad movie. We'll talk about that in just a few minutes. But that is what this segment is about. And I'm going to let Jason give us the last word before we go to the plot synopsis, is that Fury Road worked for a variety of reasons. Furiosa is failing miserably for a variety of different reasons. And while they might look the same just with a gender swapped lead, they are vastly different movies that fundamentally misunderstand what the marketplace is looking for. Jason, your thoughts, if any?
Fury Road was, to steal a term from when I was growing up, movies for guys who like movies. It was just nonstop action. It was the throwback to the 80s movies for guys.
Sure.
Furiosa, I liked Furiosa. I'm going to be the odd man out here. But it had its problems. It tried to wedge a heartfelt story into what should have just been a apocalyptic wasteland of action. They tried to slow down and have heart, which we're going to talk about a little bit more, because the action sequences were great, but they were too brief.
Nothing we haven't seen before and seen better.
Right. They were too brief. They should have been what carried the movie. Once you got into the action sequences of this movie, you were pulled out of it to try to weave into a storyline that tried to give you reasons to care. These
if you look at by comparison, Fury Road starts off really frantic and never stops, and then when it finally does stop, to give you a breather and let the characters emote a bit, and then we're right. It's like watching a basketball game. It's just all action for the first
more
quarter
like
of the movie. Yeah, and then there's a timeout, and everyone, there's a period break. Everyone takes a break. It's, we get to commercial, and then we're right back in it again. Rinse, repeat, and then we're done. It's tight as shit, and the audience gets just enough time to catch a breath, and then we're going again. It earns every bit of its runtime. It earns every bit of its praise in the sense that, it understood pacing better than any movie I can think of. This one's the exact opposite. And it doesn't earn its runtime at all.
Yeah, Fury Road is stepped on the gas pedal and didn't let off. Furiosa idled in the garage before you even got to take off and test drive the car. But yeah, this movie had its problems. I think it was a great kickoff to my summer blockbusters, but it had its issues. I think they tried to wedge too much feeling and heart into it, where Fury Road was this is just batshit insane. Strap in, and we're going to take you on 2 hours, a 2+ hour ride of just insanity, thrill ride, and you're gonna be left wondering, just like on a pure adrenaline rush when you leave the theater.
Can I throw this one last thing out there?
This was lacking.
I'm gonna throw this one last thing out there.
No,
okay.
Don't do it.
I'm gonna throw it, and I'm gonna throw this to you, Robert, and see what you think of this analogy. Or you're going to do a Robert and do your own analogy. We'll be here for another hour. Furiosa in Fury Road is the hot girl at a party, and she's fun for that night. Everyone likes her. There's no one has a problem with Furiosa. We're like, hey, she was really cool. I'm glad I went to this party. I didn't know she was going to be there. She's awesome. She's not the woman you marry though, and you take home and you spend the rest of your life with. Fucking the idea that all the guys who loved Furiosa in Fury Road, and then George Miller was like, well, if you loved her in Fury Road, wait till you see her entire fucking backstory. And you're like, ugh, none of us want this. She was fun for a night.
Stripper.
Huh?
She's a stripper.
I wouldn't go that far.
No, I'm saying she's fun for the night,
right.
But it's nothing you want to spend the rest of your life with.
Right. And George Miller's like, no, she's marrying material. Like, no, she the fuck isn't. Would you please understand how men think and work? Robert, if you got nothing, you got nothing. If you got something, you got something. But then go into the plot synopsis.
I don't fully agree, but I don't want to argue that point with you. So let's move on.
Fair enough. Okay. We can always come back to it.
We might. So, Furiosa, a Mad Max Saga, begins with basically the same opening crawl that Fury Road does, with newsreel voiceover narration about the world falling apart. And then we flash forward to the wasteland of Australia, and we meet very young Furiosa as she and a friend of hers are picking peaches in the green place, and she stumbles across a bunch of ne'er-do-wells on bikes who are butchering a horse. And I mean butchering in the literal sense. They are cutting it up for meat because horse meat is meat. And because she's her, she decides she's going to go sabotage their bikes, cuts one fuel line, gets discovered, gets captured, but is able to signal that, hey, I'm being captured. So one of the people who live here gets on a horse and runs down someone on a bike, and then gets on the bike and gets a sniper rifle and is told no one who has seen this place can live because, fair enough. You don't need word getting around about your paradise in the midst of hell. So she takes off after this group of bikers who have kidnapped Furiosa, and there's a chase scene across the desert that goes on for a couple of days. And unfortunately, she
literally.
Please stop. And unfortunately, she can't stop them getting to the war camp of our star of the movie, Chris Hemsworth, as the Great Dementus. He has been gathering together disparate raider groups and anyone who won't, and he's forming this giant gang, and he wants to be one of the warlords of the wasteland, like, you do. And he's told this girl comes from a place of abundance, and there's all this green stuff, and we need to go there. And so he tries to get her to talk, and she won't talk. Furiosa's mother, who's been chasing them, rescues her briefly, and then is run down and captured and murdered. And Dementus kind of adopts Furiosa, and she is given a front row seat to his insanity and cruelty as he unites more clans across the wasteland. And he eventually stumbles across a war boy who is like, hey, is this Valhalla? As he's got a crossbow bolt sticking out of his head. And they're like, no, don't think so. Hey, what's Valhalla? And there's one of the history men. Everyone apparently there's a cast of people who know history, and it's both tattooed on them and in their heads, and they are mostly untouchable because the death of knowledge is truly tragic, and they give you any information you need. He's captured one of them. I'm like, no, Valhalla is a Viking understanding of the afterlife for warriors. I'm like, yeah, no. So where are you going again, buddy? Oh, this great green place. It's on top of these rocks. It's got everything you could want. There's produce. There's water. There's everything. It's great. Where is that, by the way? And this poor, stupid Half-Life ridden child, like, it's back that way. Great, you're going to take me there. So they roll up to the Citadel, and Dementus tries to foment an insurrection because part of his shtick is he's a communist. In the truest sense of the word. Your leaders are the ones oppressing you. Join me and everything will be great, because communism always ends in dictatorship, always. And he tries to, tells everyone that will listen to his radio projected voice, throw down your leaders, and then we'll all be better off together. And Immortan Joe looks down at him and goes, I don't have people here. I have a cult, my man. And this doesn't work. There's a bit of a fight because the Citadel has fanatical war boys who will leap to their death carrying explosives, which is fine. He's driven off, so but Dementus is not one to be taken lightly. So he watches and he waits and he sees that Joe has kind of a little triumvirate going on here. He's got an oil refinery that's fairly within a day's drive. That is called Gastown. And there's a munitions depot called the Bullet Farm. And these three locations kind of form this loose alliance of we got everything we need. We got water, food, gas, and guns. What more do you need out of life? And we can kind of control things from here. And Dementus, okay, how about I take one of these? Because he wishes for power, so he winds up taking Gastown, argues his way into being one of the warlords, but as part of his deal, he also has to give up his doctor, the meat mechanic, which is a great title, by the way, for a doctor. And he gives up Furiosa, who has not spoken since the execution of her mother. And Joe is, Immortan Joe. He likes pure, full, non-radiation riddled women, and she seems like one of them. And it's honestly a little bit creepy, which it should be. No, you'll be here and you'll grow up, and then, you'll bear me children who are not genetic monstrosities. So Dementus gives those over, and he goes off to start ruling Gastown, but because this is Furiosa's story, we stay with her, and she sees the other breeders, the other wives of Immortan Joe.
Breeders.
That's what they're referred to as. Leave me alone.
I know, it's just funny.
She sees a malformed baby being born, and the wife is then told, well, you had 2 strikes, and now you're out, because everything's a little bit off in terms of references and all that stuff. So now you get to just be a milk producer instead of a human producer.
You become a cow instead of a breeder.
And Furiosa's like, boy, this sucks. This really sucks. I'm getting out of here.
None of this is for me.
So she escapes because Nathan Jones is weird. And she escapes. She then hides out just in various places around the Citadel. She becomes one of the people who helps open the doors. She gets promoted. She becomes a mechanic. And she gets assigned to the war rig for our random stoic human. In this case, it is Praetorian Jack.
Okay, who my son swore was Aragorn. He was like, why is Aragorn driving cars? I'm like, it's not even the right actor. He was like, no, that's Aragorn. Yeah, I had to explain that to him. He was like, no, man. It's like, that's totally Aragorn.
It's not. It's closer to Glenn Powell, but
yes.
Neither here nor there. And so she is then stuck with him and on one of his runs, and she demonstrates her usefulness, and he's like, I like you. Now, everybody, I'm a little fuzzy on this part of the movie because around the time she starts training to be a mechanic, I was violently ill in the theater watching.
Let me jump in here. I'm going to make this really simple, and then you can get back to the plot synopsis. They go on their run. Okay, she gets on the war rig.
No, that I saw. Okay, I saw that.
They are okay, and then so here is Fury Road Part 2, Electric Boogaloo. They are attacked they are beset from all sides by all manner of mutant, and she proves her mettle. She wipes everybody off. She eventually basically gets kicked off the truck.
Well, she puts a gun to his head and is like, you're going to pull over, you're going to get out, and I'm leaving. And he then outmaneuvers her.
Yeah.
Kicks her out of the car and says, no.
Yeah, lots of luck. And so she just stands on a barren road and she's like, fuck, what do I do now? So then he comes back for her and he's like, hey, want to stop being a dopey girl and actually help? And I won't hurt you. How does that sound? And she gets back in the truck and we proceed. That's really all you need to know.
So yeah, again, that's some of that stuff I missed because
Yeah.
I don't know what I ate yesterday that did not settle well, but something. And yeah, that was fun. So they form a bit of a bond, and she tries to get him to leave with her to go find the green place at some point in the future, and he's mostly amenable to this. Because things are going poorly. You see, Dementus is not the kind of man built for governance.
he's the he's the appoint my horse to Senate kind of governor, not the we don't negotiate with terrorists kind of governor.
Yeah, he's again, he's great at like disruption and murder and mayhem. And then when you have to like settle down and build a society, he's not the guy you need in charge, and he's the one in charge over at Gastown. So things are going poorly.
Yeah.
And he refuses to give them their fuel because there's kind of a riot when they show up with the food. And he said, like all communist societies, there's a food riot, one of many. And he says, look, I need a meeting of the warlords. We got to sort some stuff out because it ain't great over here. And Jack and Furiosa go back to Immortan Joe and kind of have to go like, sorry, man, he wasn't playing ball. And but not a whole lot else we could do. There was a lot of civil unrest over there. Not a good time for investment. And Joe and his sons and the guy who's going to wind up taking over Gastown, the accountant and the bullet farmers over there are like, okay, this guy's not working out. We gave him 10 years, 14 years. We gave him a bunch of time. This ain't working. We should deal with this now. So go to the bullet farm, get all the munitions that you can, and then we're gonna go play war. It'll be fun.
We're gonna fire him from his job.
We're gonna find a new guy for that job. So they go over, but Dementus is not an idiot. He's actually already captured the bullet farm. So when they show up, things go sideways in a hurry. There's a big fight, and Dementus winds up winning because he's actually got some menace and some thought behind him. He then strings up Furiosa by a damaged left arm, the same arm that she tattooed the star chart to get back to where she started from, and has Jack dragged to death behind a motorcycle in a big circle over a long period of time. And somehow during this, despite Furiosa being like right in the middle of literally everyone watching this, when her arm tears off, she escapes. So again, she escapes, she fights her, she then collapses in the desert, and we see Mad Max Wakatowski watching her from a hilltop because cameo. And then somehow she winds up back at the Citadel. It's deeply unclear who drags her there, but someone does. It's kind of I don't know if it's implied to be Max or not, but it's weird. Where she is briefly kept underground with some weird maggot rotten flesh farming woman who's like, there's peace down here with the dead. And Furious is like, yeah, no, thank you. So she goes up, she reports to Joe and everyone what's going on, that Dementus has captured the bullet farm. He's pretending to burn Gastown. He's going to draw them out, take the Citadel, and then laugh all the way to the bank. It's a good plan, believe it or not. And it would have worked if not for that meddling girl. But Joe's like, okay, so we're going to pretend to send the army to Gastown. When he comes up, we're going to meet him, and it's going to be a big thing. So we get in montage format the 40 Days Wasteland War, as told by one of the history men. At the end of which, Immortan Joe winds up victorious. Dementus and his hordes are kind of broken, and Furiosa then chases the last of them into the wasteland, where we get another bit of a chase. She kills a few people. Somebody gets killed by the biker gang that lives in the mountains that winds up that she delivers gasoline to in Fury Road. And she eventually runs down Dementus. And they have their moment where he's like, oh, we're not so different, you and I. Because much as I loathe that trope, it should have been appropriate here, and there's execution issues as to why it wasn't.
Yeah.
We'll get to it.
He does say something to her that I thought was poignant, which was basically, do what you want to me. You'll never be whole. This will never fix it.
Yes.
This is, I can't remember which iteration of Batman. It was the same thing. But it was like basically like, there's no amount of killing that's ever going to fix the hole in your heart.
Yeah, and Their final confrontation, I actually really like, but again, we'll get to why it works and why it doesn't. There's rumors about all the different ways she might have killed him. In canon, apparently she drags him back to the Citadel. Apparently Immortan Joe goes along with this. And plants a peach pit that she's been carrying for a decade into his crotch, and it sprouts a tree. And this helps inspire her to... Because we end the movie with the beginning of Fury Road when she's like basically getting the wives, hiding them in the rig, and starting her exit. And then over the credits, we get montage of stuff from Fury Road, and it just made me remember that that's a much better movie.
Jason, what did you think of Furiosa? Beyond, don't go repeat everything you said earlier. Like dig into it a little bit.
Like I said, it was a much better movie than it had any right to be, in my opinion. It was fine. Like I said, I just didn't like the fact that they try to interject heart into the batshit craziness, which is the wasteland of the Mad Max universe. I actually enjoyed the young Furiosa more than I did the time that she was an adult. And I know that sounds bad because the actress I really like the actress, but I think the time that you see her as a child, the child actress does a lot better job emoting that just kind of despair and just hopelessness that you would see in that type of wasteland. But it was a fine movie. We're going to get into a lot of the problems we've seen with it here shortly. But overall, it was 2 hours that
2.5. Two and a half.
This is a 2.5 hour movie.
Yeah. Well, 2.5 hours that it was just 2.5 hour break from reality.
I want to talk about women's bodies for a moment. When I look at Fury Road and I think about Charlize Theron, full-bodied woman, tough woman, she has kind of a, she's right up there with the best women of our time, Linda Hamilton and Sigourney Weaver. She's not buff, she's not Chris Cyborg Santos or anything, but she looks like she can hold her own.
You desperately need a more contemporary reference for female fighters.
She doesn't look like Jade Cargill. Here's the problem. I'm wondering how many of our audience knew who Cyborg was and doesn't know who Jade Cargill is, or vice versa. But
she looked like a man.
My point is, we look at Charlize Theron, we look at Sigourney Weaver, we look at Linda Hamilton in their heydays, and we go, these women look like they can do what they are doing. They are not being asked to do things that no woman that size could do against the foes she's doing them to. They are believable in their roles, and we are with them because of it. When I look at Anya Taylor-Joy, and I see her in Last Night in Soho, she's sexy, she's sultry, she's playing that part well. She may not be your particular cup of tea, and I'm not having that fight with you. I'm saying she looks great for what they asked her to do. Be a nice dancing young woman, in the 60s. She looks great in the costumes and the dresses that they gave her. She was perfect for that. She is not Charlize Theron, Sigourney Weaver, or Linda Hamilton, and it's not that she's an incapable actress. I'm thinking about her in The Northman. Robert and I liked her in The Northman. She was asked to do nothing that was particularly physical, though, and her size and her shape didn't really matter. The fact that she had long blonde hair and pale white skin helped a lot. That was about it. But my point being...
another movie we reviewed with her to kind of drive home the point that Mark's not making an anti-Anya Taylor-Joy reference. We both liked her in The Menu.
Yeah, she's great in The Menu.
I love Dom Joy in The Menu.
Right. So again, this is not about the actress. This is about her body shape for the role she's being given. Can we stop giving people the size of my son roles that require you to look like Brock Lesnar?
Your son probably weighs more than Anya Taylor-Joy does.
Probably. He eats a lot of pizza. But my point is, I'm watching this movie, and I'm bringing this up now as part of the craft review because an element of what makes your movie work is believability. Yes, there is suspension of disbelief. Yes, if one more person has to tell me, but I go to the movies to turn my brain off and have a vacation from life. Good for fucking you. You still have to create a movie that draws you into that world and allows that suspension of disbelief to happen. It just doesn't, it's not a light switch. This concept that people have, that suspension of disbelief is this automatic thing that happens with no work on the effort of the film or the filmmakers, is preposterous.
Very, very.
And to get me to believe that all 20 pounds and, you know, who will be blown away by a strong wind of Anya Taylor-Joy doing the kind of shit she does in this movie, taking the kind of abuse she does, surviving an arm being ripped off, and marching through the desert, get the fuck out of here. Like, and let me add this. What we saw of Charlize Theron in Fury Road was interesting, but as Robert said, it was wrapped up. We were done here. There was nothing. You don't need to know her backstory. You don't.
No.
She was going home. She wanted to go back to the green place. She was distraught to know it was gone and she couldn't get there. And, you know, and she's just trying to find the last piece of her soul before she dies and becomes part of the desert. Voila, lobster. This is 2.5. This had been any other like non-Mad Max related thing. Maybe it does okay. Maybe it doesn't. Who knows? In this crazy mixed up world anymore. But like I said, like I didn't need to know Furiosa's backstory. If you wanted to tell a wholly new story about this lost little girl who survives the wasteland to become, to become a force of nature herself. Okay, one, don't cast Anya Taylor-Joy to do that, because no. But two, then don't make it part of Mad Max. Make it a wholly new thing. That's half of what doesn't work for me in this movie, is that this character didn't earn this fucking epic backstory. This is what is the phrase that we use, Robert? This is George Miller's fucking not novelty or fantasy, vanity project.
There you go. You got there.
Thank you. She's just waiting for me, huh?
No, I wasn't. There's like 2.5 ways we could have gone. Phrases you could have been trying to get there.
I went with I was absolutely going for vanity project.
No, and that's fine. If I'd said one of the other two, it wouldn't have been right, and then you would have been a little bit stumbled in your head while trying to still remember what you wanted to say. Yeah,
so a 2.5 hour vanity project. Number one, Martin Scorsese says, "Stop stealing my shit." Number two, I'm fucking over this already. Like, independent, and I'll start talking about my thoughts on the film in just a second, but I really needed to get that out there. Independent of this, because people are like, does he like the film or doesn't he? I don't understand. I like the film. But my problem here is I'm over the 2.5 hour fucking vanity project already. I'm over utterly misread. And this isn't on the filmmaker. The filmmaker can make whatever the fuck he wants. He wants to make 2 hours of gay cowboys eating pudding, while slowly falling into the fucking sand and setting everything on fire. Good for you. We used to have adults running Hollywood that wouldn't greenlight this nonsense, and you had to fund these projects yourself.
They certainly wouldn't give you $170 million to do it.
No, they wouldn't. Like, this is irresponsible.
One of my favorite Hollywood stories, by the way. This is utterly aside, but it goes to your point.
Mm-hmm.
So, because we're talking Mad Max, you remember Waterworld, Mark?
I certainly do, Ollie.
Oh God.
Hang on, I'm not here to talk about that movie in detail.
Yeah,
but that was originally pitched as Mad Max on jet skis, right? Like that. That's your elevator. That's your 2-sentence pitch.
Sure.
Mad Max on the water. So jet skis, boats, whatever. Mad Max. It's a good idea.
Yeah.
Like, it's not a bad concept. And originally that was picked up by Roger Corman's studio. Roger Corman, who passed very recently. Because, B-movie kind of stuff. Like, it's kind of up his alley.
Mm-hmm.
And at one point, the script was revised, came back to him, and he threw it down on the table and said, "Don't you understand? Now this will cost me $7 million to shoot." And if you know what that Waterworld wound up costing to shoot, you understand how prescient Roger Corman was.
Right.
Yeah.
So, all right, let me say a couple of things. Independent of all my gripes, it is a beautiful looking movie. It is a wonderfully crafted movie. The technical aspects of this movie are phenomenal. The action sequences pop. It's nothing we didn't see in Fury Road. And it's not as good as Fury Road. But again, objectively, independent of Fury Road or anything else I can compare this to, these are great. These are some great action sequences. The stuff on the war rig looks really, really cool. The battle sequences in Gastown and Bullet Town are pretty cool. Chris Hemsworth is the star of this movie. He is
I
awesome.
can't express enough how awesome Chris Hemsworth. If you see this movie for nothing else, watching Chris Hemsworth do something he's not ever done before and clearly just rock it out.
Just having fun with it.
My other favorite thing about one of my favorite things about Fury Road, the stories that came out afterwards about everyone on the crew didn't know what they were doing and wanted to kill each other and George Miller. Like there was a minor stink raised because at one point Charlize Theron was taken somewhat out of context, just talking about how stressful that whole thing was, and says, Tom Hardy and I kind of wanted to kill each other, and people construed this ultimately to be, Tom Hardy. People tried to Me Too Tom Hardy basically out of this is how that, and everybody and their dog said, no, you're stupid, because Tom Hardy also said no, a lot of that was frustrating. None of us understood what was going on in George Miller's head.
When you look at those action sequences, the amount of driving that goes on and the technical stuff you have to do to make all of that work when you're doing practical effects. I've been on movie shoots. I was an extra in Hollywood. I was in the bridge scene at Stuart Little. This is motherfucker standing on a bridge. We stood on a bridge, Robert Winfree of the Screaming Boy podcast. We stood on a bridge. And it was 10 different takes. I was like, what? And I didn't really understand what all went into shooting a scene at that time. And I remember thinking why does this need 10 takes? They needed it from different angles. They needed a couple of different takes from Gina Davis. It was a bunch of different things. Why just
everything that
goes shot standing on a bridge?
Everything that goes into making a movie. That's just all it is.
Right. It's the reason why these things take as long as they do and why, you work 12 to 15-hour days. Now imagine you're not just standing on a bridge. You're driving a car. There's guys on pogo sticks. Everything's on fire. And it all has to be one take. Yeah, I can imagine why they wanted to kill each other. People get stressed out over the stupidest minor things in everyday life. Can you imagine being those two?
Well, to that point, then Anya Taylor-Joy doing media for this just has this 1,000-yard stare.
Yeah,
but then there's Chris Hemsworth.
Mm-hmm.
Who, when interviewed about this movie, is nothing but effusive. Nothing but, boy, this was awesome. I got to be in this kick-ass movie. And I've come to the conclusion the only people that can work for George Miller and not want to kill him and everyone else around them by the end of it are his fellow Australians.
I'm also thinking it's people who have worked on giant Marvel movies for two reasons. One, they are well-worn, big-budget, big set-piece actors. They know what all goes into these things. But also, it's the Ewan McGregor thing of, you're doing a George Miller shoot and everything is practical and everything is real and you're having to be there. And yeah, it sucks, but at least you can feel the scene as opposed to Ewan McGregor standing around a bunch of green boxes going, I don't know what this is. I don't know what I'm doing. I thought I was an actor.
Well, and because I think the only other person who's kind of come away from George Miller in a big movie like this, not wanting to kill him, is Mel Gibson, who born in New York, but raised in Australia. So there's a very Australian sensibility, I guess, to how he does everything.
Yeah, Australian makes men.
Miller's also a weird filmmaker because if you want to understand the wild dichotomy of George Miller, he's done all the Mad Max movies, right? He also did Happy Feet and Babe.
That's right.
He did Babe Pig in the City too, but I know he did the second one. I think he did the first one. This guy can do pretty much everything.
Yes, he's very talented. So it looks pretty. I was talking about Chris Hemsworth. Yeah. My problem with Chris Hemsworth is he is doing everything to save a nothing role. Like the character of Dementus has no real character to him other than man crazy has no plan. And maybe there might be more there, but then they don't really do anything with him.
Well, come on. We know we're going to get the Dementus backstory next.
Please shoot me. Fucking both kneecaps. It'll be less painful. The biggest problem with this, kind of like what I said about Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes and a few other movies this past year, we're getting a lot of hot babe movies. And what does that mean? It means, these are beautiful, these are vivacious, these are sumptuous, but they're airheaded. There's nothing to them. The plot is fucking paper thin on this one. And, with Fury Road, it was, I'll never forget Melissa's fucking, because it was actually on the podcast. Melissa, what is Fury Road about? Drive cars, save the women. Julie, Fury Road, the first half of the movie goes one way. The other half of the movie, they're going back the other way. Cool. This one, it was like, okay, well, we don't want to just, we've already done go one way and then go back the other way. Now let's go in a circle. Twice. There isn't a meaty enough story to keep me interested. Furiosa isn't an interesting character. Dementus, well acted and is fun to watch, isn't an interesting character. And I've seen this world already. There was nothing. I'm at a point where it's just like, if we're not getting past the desert fucking landscape, we got to find something else to do here. And part of this, I'm going to blame on Dune. We've spent a lot of time on Arrakis already. We did a lot of deserts in Star Wars. We did Fury Road. We did the desert. We're just back in the desert again. And we don't spend nearly enough time in the green place to offset it. We've already seen Immortan Joe's thing. And then you get the gas town and bullet town. And I'm like, oh, it's one tower and a gas puddle and another tower and a pile of bullets. Whoop-de-fucking-do. There's nothing visually any more interesting about this world we haven't already seen. So, independent of anything you've seen before, sure, it looks great and it's pretty interesting and it's kind of awesome. In comparison to everything that's come before, it's more of the same and nothing more interesting. This was the most infuriatingly frustrating movie for me to watch. Because it's like, I liked it, it's well done, but I've seen too much of this stuff for me to truly enjoy it. And I just want to look back at George Miller and say, no. If this is what you think 9 years and $200 million is worth, it's not. You've wasted everyone's time. Good day, sir. Robert?
A few things here. I'm going to kind of piggyback on a lot of that. George Miller still has a good eye for the action. So when he does commit to the action sequences, they're very good. That's not a surprise. They're well shot. Mark, I'm so glad that these movies are readable, the action. I mean, this is one of Miller's great strengths. Watch Furiosa. Not Furiosa, watch Fury Road. The same principle applies here, but Fury Road, I think, has more examples of it. So that's why I'm using it. Fury Road cuts about as often as an average Michael Bay action sequence, believe it or not, if you actually track the cuts. But you never lose track of anything in Fury Road. Whereas in Transformers, nobody remembers a single thing about that movie. Nothing, because it's edited very sloppily in that respect. So here we have more of the same. We have longer, in some cases, complicated action sequences that are readable and that you can follow as an audience member. And bravo, man. Somehow that's lost these days. That is a lost art. And I want to take a moment to applaud that. Unfortunately, a few things got lost along the way here in the journey to make this movie. And I don't know where all of this comes from, but first of all, they had to recast Immortan Joe because the original actor died. And his voice is different, and it's just something is missing there.
Mm-hmm.
Something is missing from that character. And given how much prosthetics there are on that guy, it shouldn't really matter who's doing it, but it does a lot. And something is lost there in that character. Chris Hemsworth steals this movie because I think his direction was, you're crazy. And everyone around you's crazy, but you've got to be the craziest. So you can hide it at first, but this guy gets crazier as the movie goes on. The more ambition and the more drive he gets, the crazier and crazier and crazier he gets, which is fine. That's fine for that character to descend more into madness over the course of time. But I feel the direction for him was very kind of broad, and he sort of took it upon himself as an actor to go flamboyant with this guy,
but not. And I don't want to upset anyone when I say this, because then it takes away from what I'm trying to say, and that annoys me. He didn't do flamboyant in the over-the-top homosexual way.
No.
He did flamboyant in the carnival barker way.
He is flamboyant and over the top in the same way that like Raul Julia is as Bison in the Street Fighter movie.
Or Vince McMahon during the Attitude Era.
Let's not talk about Vince.
No, but it's you tell me to stop, you stop.
Vince
McMahon,
no, but you're right. He's a pro wrestler, right? Yeah. And because if you're a pro wrestler, you play to the guy in the nosebleeds.
Eddie Guerrero, especially during the Latino Heat stuff.
Okay, yeah. I got you there.
I would almost say like that's it. Like he was just like be Eddie Guerrero.
There's enough subtlety going on at times because Eddie could also be a very subtle performer, but the meat of it is loud to get your attention.
Yeah.
And bless Hemsworth, it's the right call because this is a crazy world, so everyone's crazy. And this is the guy who is the king of the crazies. So you kind of have to be that. I mean, at one point, he threatens to blow up Gastown. And this is his bargaining chip. Like, okay, you're going to meet with me. I know you're going to try to kill me because I'm not stupid. I may not be sane, but I'm not stupid. And if you don't come to terms, that's going to blow up. And good luck, because without gas, everything falls apart, and you know it. So he is unequivocally, I think, the most standout part about this movie. I think what's ultimately, unfortunately, lost is what leads into their final confrontation between Furiosa and Dementus. When he brings up, he has, like you said, he has this great line where do whatever you want to me. It's never going to fix what's broken.
It is the most poignant part of this movie. You shouldn't have had to wait 2.5 hours to get there.
Yeah. And unfortunately, again, what's lost here, what makes that moment tread a bit too close to cliche, because the villain telling the hero we're not so different, you and I, is one of the most cliche things in the world. And especially because most of the time it's not true. It is flatly untrue a giant portion of the time, but it's what a villain's supposed to say, and bad writers will write it in. Here it's closer to the truth, but there's a bunch of stuff with Furiosa that is left. They either chose not to take the character in this direction or whatnot, but we needed to see her do some more or be party to some more heinous stuff. Her quest to save Immortan Joe's wives in Fury Road is, again, it's her last gasp at saving her humanity. If you watch this movie, nothing about this gets her to that point. She wants to leave, and fair enough. She wants to get out of there. That all tracks. But the core of what bonds kind of Furiosa and Max together in Fury Road is she's done bad stuff.
Right.
Because you don't get to her position for a guy like Joe without doing bad stuff. And she's trying to make up for it.
Right. And that's what the movie should have been about, and it's not.
Yes. And again, Max is haunted by all his failings, all the people he couldn't save, his family in particular. And this is him being reminded that there's good in people and there's good in me, and I am, and for all the faults and for all the bad stuff, like this is still worth fighting for. And Furiosa in this movie does not go down the dark path. She, even a little bit, really, like the closest we get is there's a few different moments when she could leave. She could have escaped and chooses not to. And it's supposed to be because she needs revenge. And this is not made clear enough that she's not here. Part of it, because there's different times when she comes back to the Citadel or whatnot, that's like, okay, I can't get anywhere else. There's nowhere else for me to go. Other times when she comes back, and it needs to be clearer that revenge is driving her mad. That she is prioritizing getting back at Dementus over returning to the Green Place. And it's just kind of not. There's many times, there's too many times when her choices are informed by other things
Yeah.
other than revenge. And this needed to be her revenge story. This needed to be her forsaking good for what feels good in revenge. And then when Dementus at the end tells her, you threw it all away. You look at what you've become. Look at what I made you.
I was saying the other thing is, what did Dementus do to her that's shown in the movie that's bad? He killed her mom. Okay, yeah, he killed her mom and he kidnapped her. But other than that,
No, her arm gets torn off because of he's a very bad guy.
I'm
but
putting in between that.
No,
the time
you're
that
right.
He kidnaps her and gives her to Joe, because everything that happens after that is them fighting. But between the time that he's with her and she shows up looking like Child Bride, and the time that she gets on the war rig, what did Dementus do to her that she was like, he's got to duck the fuck out of here? Like,
no, I'm completely with you. Like I appreciate that Dementus is a evil murdering character, but it needed to there needed to be more between young Furiosa and Dementus to really solidify.
Monkey Man and Boy Kills World handled the "you killed my parents and I've been beset by revenge," for nigh on 10 years, and now is the time. This movie doesn't. You couldn't do better than Monkey Man and Boy Kills World.
No, and not only that, again, she needed to be driven to doing bad things during her time as an imperator. We needed to see Furiosa in a negative light. We needed to see stuff that she did that she is profoundly ashamed of and trying to atone for in Fury Road, and we never do. There's a disconnect there, and that's what's supposed to make that scene after she finds out the green place is gone so tragic. Right. I could have come back. I had chances to come back, and I threw it away for revenge that did nothing.
Right.
And that is lost here somewhere in the middle between not wanting her to do very bad things. And
I think a lot of the writing
lost.
of these lead women characters is, and I've said this with some other films as of late, there's such a fear of writing women as fallible characters that you just write the flattest, most gray, beige, boring. We said before the podcast starts, and because I just watched the Midnight's Edge video about it, where it's just we're all sick of the girl bosses. It's more than that. We're sick of you writing poor. You're just sick of me writing poor characters: men, women, children, horses, and different.
So, two things about that. One, I don't consider Furiosa in this movie a girl boss. I don't think any reasonable person would.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, you've spent so long, Hollywood, writing these flat, uninteresting, borderline Mary Sue, brunette, British-speaking self-inserts, and we know who you are, by the way. You're not that clever. That a good female character winds up lumped in with them. I mean, there was a thing that went around recently that was a collage of female characters that get way too much crap because they're women. And it's got Rey and that chick from Obi-Wan and Captain Marvel and some that I think are probably true. But in this collage is also Stormfront from The Boys season 3. And no, she gets crap because she's Hitler.
Yeah, I was gonna say she gets crap because she's the worst. Let me break in, Jason. We've been talking. Hang on, Jason. We got to be fair to Jason here. We said a lot. I didn't know if there was anything you wanted to respond to or add to before Robert then closes up and we move on to the money.
No, I mean, you guys pretty much covered just about everything, and I agree with you. The thing about this is, I agree. They needed to show the reason that she's on this revenge kick. Killing your mother, yeah, that's revenge, but you don't have. That's not taking you to a dark place. That's not taking you to somewhere that you feel that you can't come back from. And that's where you kind of feel that she's at when you get into Fury Road, is that she's done these horrible, awful things, but we get a backstory that does not show any of that. the worst thing that she's done is kidnap and free the breeders, and that's it. And that I mean
That's the thing that makes her a
pretty,
hero.
yeah. I mean that's pretty much the liberation of the breeders is like her dark place, and you know you kind of wonder. I think that they should have put her in a situation where like she was forced to be like kind of a mercenary,
Mm-hmm.
to where she had to go out and like kill to further the agenda of the Citadel.
Honestly, like I think
Look,
Gastown and Bulletown needed to have been independent countries, and she needed to have done stuff to have them overthrown so that Immortan Joe could
Like,
have them.
yeah,
well,
like
hang on. Look, let's make this as dark as possible because I don't. This is a dark world, right? That we inhabit here. Part of
let's
her
go
job.
South Compton.
Part of her job should have been finding other women for Joe.
Yeah,
And she knowing like part. This is
you're
what she does.
that's right. You're a brilliant. You're a good boy who's good to his mother. There's no fucking way you're doing that in 2024. None. None.
I'm aware, but
And that's the frustrating thing about this. I'm so like annoyed with this movie. In a brave world where this stuff doesn't matter, that's exactly what would have happened. Because I don't think inherently people are dumb, and that idea didn't occur to them. But I think if I'm coming up with that, somebody else said you can't do that either.
Well, I mean that would have been a good plot point too, because the female aspect of the trusting another female would be the thing, and she would have to live with the mental anguish of subjecting these people that she's helped pretty much capture and lured into this
I gotta bring this up. I
life
just
of
listened
sex slavery.
I just listened to Robert and I do their Damn You Hollywood for Rambo Last Blood, which was about sex traffickers. And we were talking whatever year Last Blood came out. It had to have been before 2021 because we were still doing audio only.
Like 18, I think.
Yeah,
17, 18.
Well, we had that conversation about that time. Like, if you're gonna tell a sex trafficking story, you have to actually tell it. You can't pussyfoot around the way that movie does.
Yeah, this is not one of those. I mean, it's like if you're gonna tell the story of like the transatlantic slave trade or any other bit of barbarism like that, you can't pussyfoot it. You have to. But
that's the thing. They so badly want you to love Furiosa, Rey, Captain Marvel, ...
etc.
They won't let them be anything awful to then redeem at a later date. Like that's not part of it.
Yeah, I mean the entire point of like Captain Marvel and the Marvels was supposed to be I ruined this planet. Now they're doing a Spaceballs to try and steal things from other locations, and it all happens off screen, and then she fixes it at the end, and you just gotta go like, you could have done this at any time. Why are you the worst? And like, no, she's the best.
So it's like
I hate that version of Captain Marvel.
It would have been awesome, and it would have been a natural part of her story to send this young minx out on a motorcycle trafficking women, except somebody at the table while they were writing that was going, we can't have our star of this movie be a sex trafficker. What are you, nuts? Except that's exactly what she should have been. Because how else are they getting the women? She
needs to have done very bad things so that,
and you need to see those things.
And we need to go on that journey with her, because that's going to be what makes her turning away from that darkness. Like that should be what's going on with her in Dementus. Is he's saying
Dementus should have been her right hand man. You know, he should have. No. Listen to me. Dementus, or she's in Dementus's gang, and they're the ones stealing the women. You know, and he's just corrupting her the entire time. And like the fight between the two of them is, I can either go with Dementus and be the worst thing ever, or I can break away from this man and save my soul. And then that final scene makes much more sense.
Well, again, I would have done this a little bit differently because again, I'm doing this in a world where I can, make my art, so to speak.
Well, I mean,
hang on,
hang on, because I'm going to add to your thing, but I'm going to let you say your thing. Because you imagine this movie, fucking throw this whole movie in the trash. It's garbage. Do this whole thing again, but it's like Chris Hemsworth and Anya Joe as a motorcycle gang going through this entire world looking for women to traffic for Impossible Joe. What a much better movie this would have been.
Yeah,
So-
have them like be like the underlings they're sent out to basically overthrow other colonies to traffic, and just see
Yeah.
her losing a bit of
And
herself.
why her? Because he likes her.
each
She's
time.
cute. And why her? He likes her. She's cute. He likes her butt. That's really all you needed. He
He's
stole it
crazy. He doesn't really need motivation for this other. Again, like, oh, you're unspoiled by disease and damage.
Yeah.
Sure. Why
You're
not?
cute. You're cute. I like your butt. I'm killing your mom and take you. And she's just like, well, what, you're a big, strong man. That works for me.
There.
And then suddenly it doesn't.
So if I'm plotting this out personally,
Mhm.
opening more or less stays the same, right? The same
Mhm.
inciting incident. She winds up with Dementus as a kid. Dementus murders her mother. She winds up with him. She gets into Stockholm syndrome before we meet Immortan Joe.
Right.
Then Dementus is still ambitious, so when he's dealing with Joe at one point goes, "Give me her, and you can have Gastown." And Dementus, because he doesn't actually care and he's insane, goes, "Sure." And that's kind of what starts breaking her of. Again, she's already done a bunch of heinous shit.
Right.
Then this is kind of the inciting incident. Then she is stuck with some of the other wives, and she sees more of what they have to deal with.
Right. She sees what she's done.
And I would have, and yeah, like then she's confronted with the consequences. So now she's very pissed at Dementus, and she's just so damaged that revenge is more important for her than salvation.
Could you
So,
imagine this? Could you
one
imagine
tweet.
this movie that we're writing where the scene where she recognizes the women she stole and they recognize her?
One tweet.
Yeah.
Rather than kill her mother, put her mother as one of the women.
Oh yeah, in a trip in a trip where he's got
yeah.
a bunch of women to drop off. He was like, you can have. It's like have all these ones, but this one's this one's a bit young. I'm gonna keep her for myself. And Immortan's like, whatever, who cares?
Whatever. I don't like him that
And-
young. Come back in 3
Yeah.
years.
Right.
Right, and then instead of having the mother die, having the mother traded off for the servitude.
Yeah, she's one of the milkmaids. You imagine she walks in, she sees her mom, and her mom is being milked, and her mom's just looking at her like, "You're the worst child ever. I wish I'd eaten you."
That's a bit. Again, like the problem where like that winds up going a bit too far.
No,
Hang
no,
on.
that's
No.
not as far as
You
it
wanna-
needs to go.
Because you want to see that and have the reveal, not like have it revealed once she comes of age, that she has to go in and face all these people, and one of the women she has to face is her mother, and having that be the straw, that the thing that breaks her.
Right.
That-
So here's the problem with all of this. You can't do that. This is all awesome. You can't do this movie. That's the frustrating thing. We got to move this on. That's the whole point. Is that there's a much better movie here that they're not allowed to make.
Yeah, the long and the short of that is we needed to see Furiosa in a much darker light, and her obsession with Dementus needed to be more like that, needed to be sitting in her the whole time, and it's not made as much clear. I mean, this movie, if I'm gonna get to craft things, this is another 2.5-hour movie that's 20 minutes too long, at least.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna be crazy and say you could take an hour off of this. This is meant to be an epic, so it's gonna be longer. But this thing takes like 15, 20 minutes to get going.
Do you have it in you to make it epic?
Please don't.
No. Do you have it in you
Yeah, that.
to
Please don't.
make it epic? No, you don't. Stop doing it.
So, again, a little bit too long. The script's not as tight. There's a lot of little things here. Like and here's my big disclaimer again. Watching any movie while you are sick for the first time will give you a very skewed perspective on it. So I owe this movie a rewatch when I'm healthy, and I'm happy to give it to it. I think the last thing missing from this, and this was made apparent during a couple of the action scenes, and then again when you watch the end credits, Fury Road was well crafted on every level. That included sound and music. That thing assaulted you in every sense it possibly could. Furiosa plays very weird with its sound design and with its musical implementation. And it doesn't attack you and force you into this world the same way that Fury Road did. And it kind of needed that. It needed a little more bombast in places to kind of get you into it.
I want to say what you're saying, but say it differently, and then more generally. Stop trying to make epics. Epics happen naturally. The best epics happen because they are, not because you made them that way. And
Lawrence of Arabia would disagree, but
going out of your way, we're making an epic here. Just stop. Earn your run times. Make your stories. Write your stories that are full of life, full of the ups and downs and the tragedies and successes of the nature of man. Because if anything is killing the film industry, it's going to be that. It's that everyone is imitating film and not making films. And this is imitating Fury Road, not being Fury Road, which is sad because it's the same fucking guy. But I don't know what else to say. And so quickly finish your thing. But I'm just like, everyone's like, why is he in a mood tonight? I'm in a fucking mood because I am tired of film after film after film being an imitation of the film prior and not its own thing. Like, I don't know where to get talented people from. Maybe time travel back to the 80s and grab those guys that were making the films that made Hollywood, modern Hollywood. Because this crop since 2000, this crop of idiots have forgotten what it is to make a genuine film, and this is an example of it. This is an imitation of Fury Road, not Fury Road.
Last thing, again, we've been pretty critical here because I think what is critical about this movie stands out very much. It's still on the whole, it's still I think a good movie.
Hang on, someone's gonna be like, "But I liked it." Shut up. No one cares if you liked it. Go like it then. And stop listening to me and go like it. Sit on it and spin. I don't give a fuck. But I'm here to tell you, despite you liking it, which is not an objective criticism, this is what's wrong with it. Sorry, I need to get that out. I know people are watching. I know certain people are watching, and I guarantee you the feedback I'm going to get is, "Why did you hate this movie? I liked it." Shut up. Just leave me alone.
Again, on balance, I think this is probably still a good movie. There's a lot here to enjoy. I mean, we're talking about the negative stuff because that's kind of what we do.
Welcome to TMU Hollywood.
Well, again, Chris Hemsworth's performance is very good. There's a couple of good action sequences. Anya Taylor-Joy, from an acting perspective, does fine.
Yes.
The physicality's off, but that's not her fault.
Yeah, she's miscast, but she turns in a perfectly professional performance.
Yeah. It's part of the problem is when you deliberately do a prequel that is meant to lead directly into one of the more phenomenal films of the last 20 years. And when you consider everything that went into making Fury Road what it was, it absolutely meets that criteria. You're going to be compared to it and you're going to be found wanting. So you're kind of shooting yourself in the foot before you even get going. But this is still a good movie. It's one of the few movies recently that I think benefits from the big screen, at least, because Miller, that's the other thing. Not as much as some of the others, which is weird, but like, again, watching those final clips of Fury Road, I went, man, I want to see that in theaters again, because that was such a great experience in the theater. And this one, again, go see it if you think you'll enjoy it, but there's a lot of issues to be had is kind of the long and the short of it. And it's still pass on pass fail. But again, very clearly we have our issues with the totality of this.
All right. With that said, here comes the money.
We're in the money. We're in the money.
Rawr. All righty. On a Marvel budget,
168, I think, million.
Yep, 168 million. Right. Hey, real quick. Jason is bowing out. So, Jason, are you plugging anything or are you just saying deuces?
I don't got anything going on right now. I will be back. I think my next appearance here is in like 2 months.
Okay. We'll see you then, Jason. Thanks for coming on.
July 1st. I come back for Quiet Place.
Rock on.
Okay.
All right. So see you guys then.
Bye-bye. All right. Now it's just us, sweetie.
So barely beating out the Garfield movie.
Finally, we're alone.
You have a heart out. I don't. If you want to be weird, that's on you.
It's different when it's just me and you. On a Marvel budget of $168 million, this thing has made, at the time of recording, 65.1. Guys, I'm not cheerleading I'm not cheerleading the end of movies. I'm simply saying what's happening here. This thing needed to earn
400. Let's just round up and call it 400.
This thing needed to earn over 100 million in its opening weekend. It did less than half of what it should have done in its opening weekend. So this is wildly underperforming. As of and let me tell you, when I read all of this, what I'm about to tell you, you see just how bad this really is. And this is, again, these are facts. Stop arguing with me about facts. I'm just reading them. As of May 27, 2024, Furiosa has grossed 32 million in the US and Canada and 32.8 million in other territories for a worldwide total of 64.8 million. Its debut has been described as disappointing. That's a word. Having the lowest box office takings on a Memorial Day weekend since the year of our Lord 1995. Stop arguing with me. These are numbers.
Okay, hang on. Well, you're correct. I'm not here to argue with you about that.
Mm-hmm.
My point here is now let's do a little bit of context. Okay. So the Memorial Day weekend last year, 2023, headlined by Little Mermaid, which also lost money. But that Memorial Day weekend was down 40% from 2019's Memorial Day weekend. This Memorial Day weekend is down another like 23, I believe, from last year. This is a very negative trend. And if we can be honest about another thing here, we all kind of lionize and put rose-colored glasses on talking about 2019 because the money was so good. This trend that is kind of manifesting here was going on as far back as like 2015, 2016. I mean, if we want to be super honest about it, Mark, we're all about honesty, are we not? Hallmark of a relationship.
Yep.
This started with the terrible Ghostbusters Answer the Call.
That was 2016.
Okay, so that's kind of that's the point when it starts. And for some reason, nobody said, let's get off of this ride because there was enough smoke screen cover to pretend that things were okay.
Look, when L10 movies in your top 10 make $1 billion, it's the scene in like The Wolf of Wall Street where everyone's on coke and nobody could possibly see, federal law changing or the housing bubble bursting.
Well, no, hang on. Let's go to one let's go to slightly more catastrophic. This is like Monday of October 1929. When Tuesday, it all falls apart. And everything that predicts the fall, the market crash, is still there. But nobody's paying attention. And that's what we were dealing with up until that point. And 2019 actually has several hallmarks that are still problematic, but everyone was just talking about Endgame. And fair enough, man. That's a fun movie. I'm not here to deny that. But don't be distracted by the shiny thing. Look at the foundation. Like that matters. And
you want to do this? I'm gonna take a minute. Despite the fact that I was like, let's rush. I mean, it's only the two of us now, so we don't, so I don't have to rush as much. But you want to talk about what a crazy year 2019 was and why you could be led to believe we were in. First of all, nobody knows COVID's coming. Which I said
Well,
this.
hang on.
I said this in our group chat today. I was like, you want to hear a fun podcast? Listen to me and Robert talk in January of 2020, and we don't know COVID's about to happen. It's what the shit we said on that podcast. We were talking about Bad Boys for Life, by the way.
Terrible movie.
Yes, you said it at the time. But listen to this list of movies, right? Avengers Endgame, The Lion King, Star Wars Rise of Skywalker, Frozen, by the way, the first 6 movies, all Disney. In 2019. Star Wars, Frozen 2, Toy Story 4, Captain Marvel, Spider-Man Far From Home, Aladdin, Joker, Jumanji The Next Level. You know, all of these, sorry, I'm looking at, this is highest grossing films. That's just domestic. Okay.
You're not going to be that different.
Yeah, world. Yeah, this only changes the order slightly. This is worldwide grosses. Endgame, Lion King, Frozen 2, Spider-Man Far From Home, Captain Marvel, Joker, Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker, Toy Story 4, Aladdin, Jumanji The Next Level. You know, look at like the movie Joker. Joker shouldn't have made $1 billion, but it does. And it's a great canary in the coal mine because it would convince you that anything with superheroes, high IP, you know, well-established products are all going to make $1 billion. Because there's no way this fucking, like, you know, mutant
Taxi
baby
Driver inspired.
Yeah, this mutant baby between like Taxi Driver and like, what was it, Night Show or whatever?
I forget, but sure.
Yeah.
King of Comedy.
King of Comedy, yeah, is going to make $1 billion, and yet it does. This rated R fucking psycho tale. Nobody.
If you want to know how it's actually going to go, we'll talk about that with the sequel that's coming out.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. The sequel to Jumanji, Welcome to the Jungle, Jumanji: The Next Level, made $800 million that year.
Yeah. nowadays that thing peters out at 125.
Yeah, I was gonna say it doesn't even break 200 million. You know, this is when like Disney, everything Disney did was a hit. I mean, like Frozen 2 now, Frozen 2 doesn't make fucking $1 billion. Frozen 2 then, sure, absolutely. It's the third highest grossing movie of the year.
Toy Story?
The Lion King, the live action Lion King.
Live action.
The second highest grossing movie of that year. And this year, the prequel is going to bomb like fucking Afghanistan.
I mean, you don't even have to look at just at that. Like The Little Mermaid last year lost money.
Lots of it.
Yeah, a lot of it. And The Little Mermaid's a more iconic Disney movie, the original, than The Lion King is.
So again, when you look at that list, and there's several on there that at no other time in history, at no other time in movie history would those things make $1 billion, but they do in 2019. You're damn right. You're damn right. Everyone
Endgame would have made $1 billion.
I said several, not every single one.
Okay.
You're looking around going, there's no way we can fail. There's no way that this housing market can only go up.
Yeah, there's no way that Rise of Skywalker does anything approximating that, even like the year before. It's...
Right. So
hey, we have positive momentum, and you know, we're they killed Star Wars with that movie. Like a lot of other things went into it, but congratulations, you did kill Star Wars.
So here we are. I don't know, what was the point you were trying to get to?
Just how much the drop off from like that year to this year, and how
we haven't gotten that. We haven't gotten further past how sucky this Memorial Day was.
So the other thing about that year, again, if you if you pay attention, if you're not distracted by, hey, look at all these $1 billion movies, if you actually look at like the structure and more importantly the narrative, like, hey, look, The Lion King, good, no one cares about the sequels, and you don't have another one coming out for a while, and those that actually, like, The Lion King, I think, is the most I can't remember if Lion King or Beauty and the Beast is the most financially successful of them, but Lion King was kind of panned critically. It made money, which is,
by the way, the Memorial Day weekend movie, May 24th of that year, was Memorial Day was what, May 24th?
I don't know.
It's either Aladdin or Godzilla King of the Monsters.
It's one of those two, and it's a fairly large success for obvious reasons. But Aladdin started actually the downward trend of box office returns for the live action stuff. You were ending that new trilogy of Star Wars movies, and no one cared. Even people coming out of that didn't care. And you just ended pretty definitively your 10-year big overarching MCU project.
So Memorial Day that year is the 27th. So Memorial Day weekend was the 24th, which makes it Aladdin. Aladdin was the movie.
Yeah. And Aladdin, went on to be one of the higher grossing movies of that year.
Right. So if you're looking, so it's like, okay, well, it made $1 billion, so nobody cares. But I think what your point that you're trying to get to is, yes, but it performed slightly less that Memorial Day weekend than it should have, and it started, and a trend was forming at that point that was then fast forwarded by COVID.
Yeah, like the live action trend of Disney movies was actually starting to go down, believe it or not. Not because it always would. It was always going to peter down. Nothing goes up forever. It was always going to start going down. The MCU ended. I mean, I know they're still releasing movies, but for the vast majority of the world, Endgame was it. They got off the ride. And your Star Wars movie was not, hey, look at all the money it made. And it did nothing to please anyone. And you killed your IP. Good job. And that should have been even if there's no COVID in 2020, we should have been paying more attention to that stuff than we were at the time. And that's on everybody.
In the US and Canada, Furiosa Mad Max Saga was released alongside the Garfield movie in Sight, and was projected to gross around $40 million from 3,700 theaters in its 4-day opening weekend. Over the same frame, the film released 71
somebody fired that projectionist, I bet.
Where it was projected to gross 40 to 45 million. The film earned 10.2 the first day, 3.5 million from Thursday night previews, similar to the 3.7 made by Fury Road, and went on to underperform. Hey, sensitive people out there, listen to the words coming out of my mouth written on the Wikipedia page. It went on to underperform, grossing 25.5 million in its opening weekend and 32 million over the 4-day frame, marking the lowest grossing film to finish first over the Memorial Day weekend since Casper in 1995.
And to be fair, if you adjust Casper for inflation, it's 40-something million.
The film also came in below expectations in its global weekend, grossing a total of 58.8 million from 76 total market through Sunday. Regarding the opening weekend box office, David A. Gross, a movie consulting firm, Franchise Entertainment Research, said, "This is a weak opening in spite of outstanding reviews and a good audience score." In Australia, the film opened at number 1 for the weekend, earning 3.3 million. All right. So looking at the weekend, it came in number 1. It grossed domestically 26 million. Garfield.
Think about this for just a second. It barely beat the Garfield movie.
Yeah, Garfield came in at 24, and I think the budget on Garfield was a tenth of what it was for fucking Fury Road.
No, look it up.
The Garfield movie.
If we're gonna do that, I don't mind looking it up.
Alexis and Zach are gonna review it next week, but I doubt
they are
get into the minutia of the money like we are. So, the Garfield movie had a budget of 60 million. It's made 97.6 million.
So knock $100 million off of the budget. Garfield movie is going to be fine when it's all said and done.
Yeah, Garfield's fine. It fell from 1 to 3. Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes fell from 2 to 4.
Yeah, hang on. We haven't talked about If. Mm-hmm. Apparently, that is also wildly underperforming.
Yeah. We mentioned it last week on the last review.
I know we mentioned it, but can we just talk about how Ryan Reynolds isn't a draw if he's not Deadpool?
Correct. And more on that, but the opposite when I do a triple feature of Ryan Reynolds movies with Gavin Napier in the near future.
Look, Gavin can be weirdly attracted to Ryan Reynolds all he wants. I'm not here to judge him.
Sure you are.
No, I'm not. That is not my sole purpose on earth. But Ryan Reynolds does not have a great track record as a lead unless he's Deadpool.
Yeah.
I can't help but get this impression. Watching the trailer for that movie, I went away from that movie from the trailer for If going, they really wanted Hugh Jackman in the lead to that. It's whimsical. There's a lot of singing and dancing. Look at the outfits. Like the original conception of that was Hugh Jackman, wasn't it? And they got Ryan Reynolds instead.
The Fall Guy fell from 4 to 5. It fell. The Strangers Chapter 1, 3 to 6. Sight debuted at number 7. Challengers, which I reviewed with. I reviewed that with Neil and Chris, and what a rant I went on about how much I fucking hate our utterly sexless society and this asexualization of entertainment and of the population that wants this way. Like, I don't like when
hang on, sorry. If you want to know one of the other reasons movies have started failing, I would argue that there's a strong, it's not the only cause, but I think there is a causal effect where you have removed one of the pillars of storytelling, one of the pillars of drama, of entertainment medium is eros, is romance.
Yeah.
That is a pillar of all of this, and you whacked it off and sent it away because a small number of people with an outsized voice were being a little bit weird about it.
So
everything's suffering.
So I went on this like epic rant on movies that don't suck and some that do, which the audio of it will be out soon. The raw video is currently on YouTube, but they like polish it up and throw pictures on it and shit like a week later. So, but if you want to listen to it now, it's on there. It's on their feed, their YouTube feed. But I went on this epic fucking rant about how I grew up in the age of, and this is not an invitation to debate the merits of these movies. These movies all represent a certain aesthetic that I grew up with that is now lost to the sands of time, and we're not better off for it. And I will fucking die on that hill and violently beat anyone that tries to knock me off of it. I grew up in the age of like Porky's, Revenge of the Nerds. If you want to be higher class about it, 10. Blame It on Rio, The Flamingo Kid.
If we're including just, again, kind of these salacious movies, Cruising, Hard Bodies.
Yeah. Joysticks, Hamburger the movie, Hot Dog the movie, Ski School. Like, there was a time in this country that is now profoundly lost where if you went like the horniest, sexiest movie of the year, you almost got an X rating. If you're going to make like the claim that this is the horniest movie of the year, you almost made porn is what you did, you naughty person, you. But it's like, it's not only that. We grew up in the age of like Basic Instinct, Sex Lies. I actually named Sex Lies and Videotape by, Fatal Attraction.
Yeah.
Like what you're talking about.
There's
like
that. I forget the title of it, but there's one where James Spader plays an absolute bastard alongside Robert Downey Jr. Again, I can never remember the name of it, but yeah, there used to be an art to the salacious video. There really did.
Right.
And somebody's done the math on this, believe it or not, like done the analytics. There is significant modern movies. It's either without sex or in some cases even the implication of sex, but what does exist is actually a lot more graphic. So you've kind of either got sexless, there's a few kisses. Dude, you couldn't even do that. I'd say couldn't. Nowadays, you would not do that opening bit in Iron Man when Tony Stark seduces that journalist.
Right.
You wouldn't even do that today.
Yeah.
Like that's how
you'd be afraid Tony Stark would be canceled. Yeah, I just so like Challengers. The whole reason I went on this was like Challengers was like it's the horniest movie of the year.
Oh, it's so salacious, and there's
so there's no threesome. Number one, so she gets these two jack-offs, these two fucking asexual, just fucking
these are
beige men on this bed.
These are what a certain segment of women think men should be, and what men trying to suck up to those women decide that they think men should be like.
Sexless friend zone eunuchs, Funko Pops that you can put on a shelf when you're, when you don't want to be amused by them, and take them off when you do, and are just waiting for you. Kens. These are Kens. Ken only has a good day when Barbie pays attention to him. Women seemingly are said to want Kens, and some of them do. So these two Ken dolls are sitting on the bed with, hot piece of ass of the moment, Zendaya. And here's what she does, see? I'm gonna give it away. She kisses one. She kisses the other. Then the two Ken dolls kiss her, and she does what every woman does in the threesome. Goes, what the fuck? I thought I was a star here, and then fucks off and leaves. That's it. That's it. That's the horniest movie of the year, everybody. Congratulations. Congratulations. You've done it. People wondered why I made such a big deal out of Poor Things. Anyway, so if you would like to hear more on that, my review of Challengers is on YouTube. That fell from 5 to 8. Back to Black, 6 to 9. Babes opened at a bunch of theaters and went from 18 to 10. Tara, dropped from 7 to 11. Godzilla in 9 weeks out, dropped from 8 to 12. I saw the TV Glow, which I also talked about with Neil and Chris.
And I assume you loved.
It was all right. My daughter thought it was. My daughter thought it was great. There's a sequence in it that apparently fucked my son up and was like, I'll never forget these images. I have to go home and play video games and try to put this out of my brain. Meanwhile, my daughter's like, more movies like these, all of the movies like these. Remember what I was saying about Challengers? Yeah, it's my daughter's fault. Everyone's like my daughter now.
Well, hang on. Let's put that in the proper order. Your daughter is like everyone else.
Sure. And then there's my poor son. I said this on the show. It bears repeating. My son didn't want to go see this movie necessarily, but he knew my sister did. And because of something that I had heard on Critically Acclaimed and then repeated at the dinner table, he was like, this sounds like the gayest movie ever. Now I want to go just to make fun of my sister. And then he goes, I'm like not well that day. I had to go to the bathroom, and I turned the bathroom at this poor AMC in Riverview into the bathroom from Desperado. And it wasn't my fault. I just poor timing and aim. So I now have to clean this bathroom and my shame off the wall. And I missed this entire window of the movie. I come back, my son is like my hardcore fucking casually misogynist son is just crying, and I'm like, Jonas, what's wrong? And then at the end of the movie, he's just like, he's doing that crying where you're trying to get air into your lungs so that you can actually vocalize. And all I can hear him say is, the season finale is opaque. You have to watch. And I'm like, you're not forming words, sir. What are you saying to me did Timmy fall in the well? And he's like, the scene where they watch the series finale of the Pink Opaque. You have to watch it. I'm like, Jonas, we just saw the movie. Like, I understand instant cassettes was a thing in Spaceballs, but I guarantee you this scene's not on YouTube just yet. Like, he was like, when it is, you have to see it. It's horrifying. I'm like, all right, Jonas. And then there's my sister just jerking off. Like, oh, my cut. Yeah. My daughter, rather, just jerking off in the corner. Like, just thought this was the best thing ever. I'm like, Lily, what'd you think of the movie? Are you okay? I have so many questions. It was awesome. Can't wait to tell all the other asexual kids at school about it. Okay. 2024. God, I hate life. Moving on. See, and you always thought you'd be the one that hate life. And then look what happened to me.
Mark, I've hated life for a long time. Once again, I'm just ahead of the curve, and you're finally catching up.
Anyway, after that rant, 10 weeks out, Ghostbusters maintains its spot at 14. Civil War fell from 10 to 15. Unsung Hero 11 to 16. Kung Fu Panda 4, 12 weeks out, 13 to 17. Blue Angels 9 to 18. Evil Does Not Exist. Teehee jumped from 21 to 19. Wildcat 19 to 20. And that out of the top 20 is the Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare. Abigail. Debuting this weekend was Kidnapped, the Abduction of Edgardo Mortara at 29. Solo, Not That Solo, You Nerds at 39. And that was the weekend that was. Worldwide.
Again, terrible weekend. Terrible total take for the week.
Alrighty. Dune still at the top. Godzilla times Kong at 556. So, it's catching up. It's doing okay. It's not a complete
about
disaster.
Done. It's not going to hit 6.
Okay. People yell at me for being the negative one. It's Dune stalled out in the 7s. Godzilla times Kong. Well, I'm sure they would love to have made $1 billion. Realistically, it's doing all right. It's it's not the world on fire.
I'm not calling that a loss, but it's not going to hit 600.
It's not the disaster.
No, it's not. It's not a disaster.
Thought it was. Kung Fu Panda 4 is number 3 at 539.
One of the more profitable movies of the year.
Yes. Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes at 302.
That'll probably wind up surpassing Kung Fu Panda 4, I think.
Yeah, I think it's doing all right. Ghostbusters petered out around the 200 million. Bob Marley from February, 179. The Beekeeper from fucking January, 152.
And once again, everybody, every week, Mark's going to look at that movie and go, I hate it. I hate it here. I don't want to be here anymore. Why is this $152 million take movie from January still in the top 10? Don't you people understand anything? Why?
The Fall Guy, if you want to talk about bombs, at 145 million. The Fall Guy can't beat The Beekeeper just yet.
It might when it's all said and done, but I don't think it's not beating Bob Marley. We're not getting that thing to 180.
That's fucking sad. That is a big bomb for Universal.
Yes, it is.
Civil War, one of the biggest successes of this year, at number 9 and 113 million. And If, making its debut in the top 10 at 104 million. Out of the top 10 are Mean Girls, Madam Web, Garfield is in at number 13, Exuma 14, Argyle 15, Detective Conan 16.
So Garfield gonna wind up doing pretty good when it's all said and done. It's almost at 100 million right now.
Yeah.
It'll surpass Madam Web and Mean Girls and maybe even If by next week.
Mm-hmm.
So that's probably going to wind up being a solid enough win. And coming in at number 20, Mark.
Wait, hang on.
20.
Challengers at number 17, the horniest movie of the year. 2 movies I don't care about. And then, yes, debuting at number 20 for the year of our Lord 2024, Furiosa, Mad Max Saga at 65 million. Tucked neatly between Hike You, the dumpster battle, like what I had in the bathroom at the AMC in Riverview, and Night Swim at fucking from January, by the way. Yes.
There's a chance, Mark, and a non-trivial chance that Furiosa doesn't beat Madam Web, and I don't want to live on this planet anymore.
Robert just gets in his fucking spaceship and takes off.
If Elon Musk is looking to send people to Mars, I'm just saying.
Mm-hmm. All right. I got a bye week this week. It's my birthday. Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. I'll be 48 years young this Sunday, June 2nd. Nothing good, nothing worthwhile comes out this weekend that I could see, which is why next week there's no Damn You Hollywood as such, but there's no Damn You Hollywood from us. But however, we are tagging in the second and third stringers. Alexis is going to have Damn You Hollywood, and they're going to do Garfield from this past week. So we get another catch-up week. And then
I don't know if I'm going to be on that or not. I'm still vacillating. I might. So minimum those two. My participation is still potentially TBD.
Okay. And then Bad Boys comes out on the 7th. So I listened to our review of Bad Boys for Life. I am convinced as ever it was I did the right thing in just bringing Ronnie on to talk about the series as a whole and not have a Damn You Hollywood for this or try to do Damn You Hollywood with him, because the shit we said about Bad Boys for Life and thinking, God, this is only going to be worse with this one, which I'm only going to see because my son desperately wants to go see it.
We're only look, man, it's going to be awful. It's just going to be awful.
Yeah.
This movie
I listened to The Long Road to Ruin and the Damn You Hollywood, and I only liked the first one. It's the only one that's
an objectively like halfway decent film.
Yeah, I was like making fun of the second one, like throughout that Long Road to Ruin that I did with Sean. We didn't spend that long on it, but I heard myself say, I listened to it again. I listened to it while I was at work today. We spent a lot of time of me going, this Lord of the Rings epic 3-hour fucking movie that's only good when the car starts destroying every house in Cuba.
I assume that you mean the Dominican Republic.
No, okay. I had it backwards. It's Cuba.
Okay. Just wrecking those poor Cubans.
Yeah. And it's funny when Sean and I talk about it. That scene still makes me laugh, but that's literally the only good scene in the movie outside of the opening with the Nazis, with the Ku Klux Klan rather.
The only thing Bad Boys 2 is good for is the reference that Hot Fuzz makes to it. That's it.
Yeah. So anyway, no Damn You Hollywood for like 2 weeks. While we play catch up, and Ronnie and I are going to talk about the new Bad Boys, but we're going to talk about all things Bad Boys, such as it is. I didn't know there was a television show or a video game, so I'll have to ask him about those. And then we're back on the 17th with Inside Out 2, and then The Bike Riders, and then A Quiet Place, and all of that to say, Furiosa
this summer
has
sucks.
that, but Furiosa has some, another week to play with to try to make some money. And then, I mean, if at that point it hasn't garnered any interest, and word of mouth on this movie is it's good, but it's not, I'm not hearing this is a like Dune level must go see this on the IMAX screen. Like I took my kids to the IMAX showing, but I don't count. I'm such an outlier from the typical audience. I don't think the word of mouth is out there that this is worth seeing on IMAX. I think this is one of those, it's fine, wait for it to come out on Max. That it's fine, wait for it to come on streaming is going to fucking kill the movie industry. And I know we say that every week. And I know, we were talking about, because I sent out the Midnight's Edge video about all the things that killed Fury Road, the girl boss thing, the people just fucking, they traced it all the way back to the Charlie's Angels reboot with Kristen Stewart.
Not an unfair place to also point that particular.
If they like between Ghostbusters 2016 and Charlie's Angels with Kristen Stewart.
Yeah,
like I saw Charlie's Angels and I get the point that he's trying to make, and the point is kind of how I feel about things. At the time, I remember saying to you on DMU Hollywood, because we talked about dark feminism, but that all came out on the same weekend. Yeah. So I remember saying to you, like, I took my daughter to go see Charlie's Angels, and she loved it. She was like doing fucking, bower rolls and shit in the theater. She's like, I want to be a spy, and I'm like, you're, 10, quiet down. But like she had a great time with these, skinny women doing action shit. And it was great. And at the time, I remember like you giving me shit about it. And I was like, no, it was a good time with my daughter. And she got to see, a projection of herself as an adult on screen. And there's no harm in that. There's no harm in it when you do it once in a while. When you assume the entire major market of your industry is with you, with all things being that, you are wrong, and you're going to lose boatloads of money, pandemic or otherwise. And that's what happened. And that's what Andre from Midnight's Edge was saying about Furiosa. Furiosa in and of itself maybe shouldn't have suffered the fate that it did, but when it comes in a long line of everything looks like Furiosa now, starting with fucking Charlie's Angels and Ghostbusters Answer the Call, by this point, the audience is so far. I said this last week when we were talking about Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. And your joke about like Willie, like, yo, you've lost the wee boys.
You've lost the young males.
The kids are on TikTok and YouTube, and everybody else will wait for it to come on streaming. You really, you have so much ground to recover to win back your audience, and you haven't even begun. Furiosa is not the beginning of that. Keep bringing them back. It's more of the same.
This is, I think, the big thing that people in Hollywood are maybe starting to figure out finally, that we've all known for a while.
Mm-hmm.
You've lost so much. There's no trust.
Yeah, there's no goodwill.
There's no goodwill. We've been saying it for years that you burned through it all.
Mm-hmm.
Took a match to it. Just gone. And like I said, I think it's unfortunate that Furiosa gets lumped into that, because I don't think Furiosa is a girl boss in the way that it's understood. Yeah. But you would be forgiven very easily for making that assumption.
Well, we spent 20 minutes or so rewriting the movie so that she's a more interesting character.
Yeah.
I mean, girl boss may be too flippant of a phrase, and certainly I would argue I think it is. But I think it does lend itself to the greater point of she's not a well-written enough character for your for what's in the market to be interested in paying money to see her.
Yeah, and when you've done like 8 years worth of insulting your audience, of subverting their expectations badly.
Can I know we talked about like stop interrupting each other, but I said before about Ken dolls, and I got animated about it because it's becoming very personal to me. This may be projection, but maybe it isn't. Maybe it's a parallel. Maybe it's a euphemism. But I think like that idea that men should just be Ken dolls to be placed on shelves and used accordingly when they're, needed, wanted, and then put aside as if we don't have feelings and emotions and needs of our own. And I feel like that's how Hollywood treats men as well. Is, Andre brought this up on Midnight's Edge, that Kathleen Kennedy's thing about men in the male Star Wars fans are, change this entirely so that it accommodates women, the men aren't going anywhere. The men and the boys will always be fans of this thing. We can utterly neglect and abuse them, and they'll still be there. And some of them are, but the vast majority have fucking fled this product.
It turns out that if you have about 50% of the market, if you then try to change your thing to appeal to the other 50% of the market, you're going to lose the 50% you had.
Yeah.
Who'd have thought?
So that's what I'm saying. Like, this assumption that the men were going to stick around while you abused them and neglected them. I have news for you. We don't. Not in interpersonal relationships and not in our relationships with media. We just don't. Nobody does. Nobody sticks around, to be abused and neglected longer than they have to be. And it's easier to divorce yourself from this fucking nonsense coming out of Hollywood than it is, a real person.
I'm trying to remember which movie it was, but there was one of them that when we reviewed it, I actually got a little heated. Because I don't. I mean, look, I get animated, but I don't usually get heated, like emotionally heated.
Mm-hmm.
And there was one or two that like really pissed me off because they were insulting. Like they were deliberately insulting. And you do that enough, people stop watching. And for some reason, y'all decided you wanted to learn that the hard way.
Let's be very clear about this, and then we'll move on. We're here because we wanted to be here talking to each other, and the kind of thing that brings us together, besides, the occasional boxing match, is whatever the new motion picture is in the movies. But you take this podcast away, and do you think either one of us is going to the movies as much? Not me.
As much as we do now? Absolutely not.
No, there'd be a lot of things I'd be telling my own kids, like, we'll just wait for them to watch at home. Like, I saw the TV Glow. I would have waited for that to come on PVOD.
Yeah.
There's
a lot that I would not be going out of my way to pay to see.
Yeah. And that's two people that have been trumpeting, that have been cheerleading theatrical exhibition. When the only reason we're going to the movies now is to keep the flow of content going. That is a awful thing to say about the current state of movies.
It really is. And
it's funny to think about like Hollywood being utterly dependent on YouTubers.
Well, it's made worse because no one's going to take the lessons from this. Mm-hmm. You know what's going to happen. They're already spinning it, right? Because Disney's stock keeps falling.
Right.
Here's what they're spinning. We had to push everything back because of the strike. The strike screwed us, and blame them, blame the unions. And don't get me wrong, sometimes unions suck and are deserving of blame, but oh no, COVID wrecked us. You were wrecking yourselves before that. Don't get me wrong, that was a monkey in the wrench, so to speak, but you could have rebounded better. You really could have. But between a limited theatrical window, which you've all decided to embrace wholeheartedly, between theater prices going up, which is somewhat inevitable, but I'm not going to pretend I'm not going to lay that blame solely at theater chains. Like, there's economic reasons that are contributing to that, but let's not pretend it's not happening. And you're not making good movies as a general rule. What do you expect to happen here? Like, you'll never get the truth out of these people because they spend so much time in spin, BS, and lies. But I would love to get one of these idiots in a circumstance where they are telling the truth, and I know they're telling the truth, and like, what did you expect to happen? Realistically, what did you think you were doing?
They were hoping that they were hoping to fill the empty hole within themselves with vengeance. And as it turns out, it doesn't work that way. And
I know that Kathleen Kennedy's whole thing was, I will throw away all the men and get all the women and nothing will really change.
Yep.
And I think that she genuinely believed that. And then it turns out, no.
Yep. All right. With that said, the critical review.
Are you ready? I said, are you ready?
No, God! No, God, please, no! 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 No!
You know, there was a time, Robert, that scores this high would also, for a big budget Memorial Day, big release movie, wide release movie, that this would make shit tons of money.
It would have been an indicator of better financial success. That's certainly true.
And yet here we are in the year of our Lord 2024, where none of this means anything. It's all relative. Nothing means anything. All right. The scores are 90% for all critics. When you move that to top critics, it drops down to 83%.
That's about right.
All audiences is 87%. When you when you move it to verified audiences, it's 90%. And the AI writes, snatched from the green.
No. That's the synopsis. Scroll down. That's the plot synopsis. There's the AI synopsis.
All right. The AI writes, retroactively enriching Fury Road with greater emotional heft. No, it doesn't. If not quite matching it in propulsive throttle.
It certainly doesn't do that.
Furiosa is another glorious swerve in mastermind George Miller's breathless race towards cinematic Valhalla. You cannot convince me a human wrote that. Not one that saw this movie.
A human did not write that. No, there's no way.
And if it did, I want to punch that human squaw in the mush. Justin Chang of NPR's Fresh Air top critic. Fresh Air. Hello. Welcome to NPR. Do you want to make it epic?
Look, we should just make fun of NPR for being NPR. I think we don't need any more than that.
Even in moments when the CGI looks a little obvious, the mayhem is staged and shot with the kind of blissful coherence that you rarely see in a Hollywood blockbuster anymore.
Hang on. He's not wrong about that. I think that's one of the things I said. But if I had another big kind of negative for this movie, the use of CGI, there's a lot of it, and most of it's obvious.
Rob Dean of Bullseye.com. Furiosa. Yes. Furiosa and Mad Max Saga is a triumphant return to the shattered world that Miller and company have created.
This is not a triumph. This might be you can call this an artistic success, I think, but it's not a triumph.
Sean Edwards, Fox 4 Kansas City, didn't see the movie and just read copy. Yeah. It's epic in scale, epic in scope, and did not disappoint.
That is nothing but ad copy.
You tack. Courtney Howard of Fresh Fiction. It burns. It certainly does, Ollie. It burns with the heat of 1,000 fires, and the Aussies' auteurs' filmic language feels as visceral and vital as ever. Honey, were the 4 years you spent getting an English degree in college the best years of your life?
I have a feeling the answer to that question would be yes.
Yes, but with flowery language, Robert.
Yeah, but I come from the why am I blanking on the author? Guy who wrote The Old Man in the Sea.
Oh. Yeah, I'm blanking. Moving on. Alex.
Anyway, it's not. It's gonna bug me. Noted for his. Okay, let me go a slightly different direction then. Frequently, my dialogue leans a little bit more towards
Ernest Hemingway.
Hemingway did write that, yeah, because he's very punchy. Why did another author's name? I have not eaten because I've been sick, so my brain is not functioning properly at the moment. I'm losing my recall.
Alex Billington of firstshowing.net. This is the pinnacle of action cinema. Oh, sit down.
Boy, I hope not.
Stop trying to impress the women.
That too.
Stop. Speaking of the women whom were saved when they drove cars, Sarah Michelle Fetters of MovieFreak.com, top critic. This is Miller's world, and I'm ecstatic I've been lucky enough to be around to experience every single solitary second of it. Ugh.
The fangirling masquerading as review is a little much.
Speaking of fangirl, Ricardo Gallegos of La Astuila. Another orgasmic spectacle of epic proportions. What the fuck, man? I'm getting mad again like I did with Fury Road. Calm the fuck down. Let's see. Cathedra Woods of Cup of Soul. The film truly shines in its well-executed moments. Thanks, honey.
I can see Russia from my house. Hang on. In fairness, that might just be a very dumb blurb pull.
Sure. So that's why I didn't give her too much shit. But
yeah, like neither am I. But like that's a poor choice.
Lisa Johnson Mandel at homeinhollywood.com. The film is a blazingly brilliant and bizarre battle of senses. More than a movie, it's an experience. George Miller awes audiences. His savage, what the hellery. Let me go ahead.
I feel like there's a bunch of people who are copying from their Fury Road review.
Well, here's the other thing I'm going to tell you. These are women in the entertainment industry, and I think they're the only women that liked or saw this movie, or both.
Probably.
Yeah. Doug Walker, Channel Awesome. A film of abundance. Shut up, Doug. Stop. Doug Walker hasn't gotten laid since Reagan was in the White House. I'm going to go ahead and say that right now.
I mean, I can't stop you, but that's a weird assertion to make.
Speaking of weird assertions, Black Robert Winfree, Armand White.
That is a weird assertion that you believe there's a black version of me, yes.
For all the busyness, Furiosa has no emotional power. Despite Miller's directorial signature, none of the pandemonium matters. His quirky wizardry is remarkably impersonal. That's all true.
This really did lack the emotional core that Fury Road was able to get across much more efficiently.
Thelma Adams of AARP Movies for Grown-Ups, top critic. Theron made audiences care for her traumatized Furiosa. In comparison, this gargantuan effort is a soulless splatter. Correct.
Not wholly wrong.
My mortal enemy, Michael Medved of the Michael Medved Show. Despite its twisty and complicated plot, this is not complicated, you tart.
No, it's long, but it's not complicated.
And apparently, it was way too much movie for fucking talk show host Michael Medved. This is a worthy successor to the previous film in the series, visually stunning with an epic feel and breathtaking action sequences choreographed by director George Miller. This guy's a professional film critic. You know what I mean? He's fucking dumb as a bagel. Speaking of dumb as a bagel, Jeffrey Harris, 401mania.com.
Be nice to Jeff.
The narrative takes a different approach and style from the previous franchise entries, and Furiosa Mad Max Saga is all the better for it. Chris Hemsworth delivers one of his career best performances as the demented Dementus. Yeah, that's true. That part is.
The second half of that is very true. Like this genuinely feels like Chris Hemsworth is having fun, which is weird because he actually does imbue Dementus with a kind of tragic malevolence.
A.A. Dowd from Digital Trends, top critic, desperately wants female attention. You won't miss Max, Hardy's, or Gibson's. Furiosa's baptism in blood and petrol will do. Sir, women don't like you.
I do kind of miss, actually, the influence of Mad Max in Mad Max movies. Go figure.
you casual misogynist, you.
Look, man, I liked Fury Road. I didn't like this all that much. It's still a good movie, but I didn't. And again, I owe this movie a healthy viewing, so in fairness, my stance is going to be a little bit skewed.
Kate Sanchez is the woman I'm casually misogynistic. But why, though? A geek community. I envy any person who gets to have Furiosa, a Mad Max story, as their entry point into the franchise.
No one's going to continue with the franchise if this is their entry point.
Let me tell you, that Kate Sanchez chick is every hot girl in every podcast that doesn't really know what the fuck she's talking about and is only there for tit clicks. Every last one of them. And I say that having seen the Jedi Council podcast where they always had one hot olive skin colored woman who barely knew the Star Wars franchise was given notes and told, hey, hot girls, say the following so nerds will jerk off to you and watch our stupid YouTube show. Kate Sanchez, everybody.
That'll back about 2% there, Mark.
No. You know what's funny? You would
2%.
think. You would think that, you know, I have a girlfriend. I've had a girlfriend for like 2 months now. She's great. She's brought me out of, you know, what was fast becoming a chasm of depression. She is everything I was looking for in all of the madness of the last couple of years. She is a ray of light in a sea of darkness. And you would think that with all of that, some of this would be dialed back. No, it's like amped up. Like I've gotten more, like I somehow have gotten more angry.
I can explain this to you.
Being like in love than I should be. It's weird. Go ahead.
I can explain this to you, believe it or not.
Okay, explain away.
You see, when you're in the midst of all the terrible stuff, your brain secretes a chemical that says this is normal. It's a thing that the human brain does. It allows us to deal with terrible things without shattering mentally. Like,
That would explain a lot of the last couple of years, sure.
well, like how did people survive the Holocaust? Like, you do anything long enough, it becomes your normal.
Yeah, I would parallel my marriage with the Holocaust.
I'm making a broader point about how this works, you weirdo.
Go on.
But you take any bad situation, and over enough time, the human brain will tell you this is normal.
Sure.
For better or for worse, it's designed to allow us to continue functioning. You've now reached the stage, Mark, when you've realized how bad it was, and you're retroactively pissed at all the time you should have been pissed when you were just surviving.
That's fair. And I'm lashing out against everyone around me. So, hey, all the people who was just like, we can gently jostle. No, you can't. Now I'm fucking coming out swinging. Dicks. Speaking of dicks, hey, so that's our show.
Poor transition, Mark.
They're all poor. Welcome to Damn You Hollywood.
This is among your worst.
It's only going to get worse from here. The happier I am, the worse this gets.
No, that's me.
True. This is it for this week. Tomorrow, I'm going to do, I think, for naked karaoke. Let's talk about my naked karaoke. I know I know you have questions. No, let's talk in vascular detail about my naked karaoke. I think for naked karaoke tomorrow, I'm going to do Me and the Whiskey by Whitey Morgan and the 78s. How do you feel about that?
I've never heard the song. Consequently, I have no opinion.
Great. I think I should do it too. And you should, when we're done here, go listen to Whitey Morgan's Me and the Whiskey, because it's become like my song.
I can tell you the chances of me doing that are low. They're not zero, but they're low.
Do you want me to get the lyrics to it now and sing it to you?
No, I really don't.
Okie dokie. And then Thursday, I got shit going on. Friday, I'm going to go out with my kids for my birthday and go bowling. And then Saturday and Sunday, I've got stuff with the girlfriend to actually celebrate my actual birthday. So that's what I got going on, in which case, why there are no podcasts. And I don't even think I got any replacement shit going on this week. Yeah, there are literally no other podcasts happening on the Radulich Broadcasting Network this week at all. However, Monday, we are catching up with some Sons of Anarchy. The show turned me around. By the end of season 4, I'm fucking hooked on this show now. Like, it is there. It's hard to talk about because it's just soapy good fun, and I don't get a lot out of it in terms of like greater thematic narrative like I did with the David Simon stuff or the Orville or thing. Like, there's no transgendered babies in the show like there was in the Orville. There were no. It's dealing with the issues of the day kind of stuff.
God.
Oh, shut up. Leave me and the transgendered babies alone. We didn't do nothing to you. But
Mark, you know that's a lie.
Okay, moving on. My point is that's why I discuss a lot of science fiction on here, because there's always like greater human elements to discuss and the actual science and things like that. The David Simon stuff always had like socio-political stuff going on. Sons of Anarchy doesn't have any of those things. It's just soapy good fun. So it hooked me. I'm finally excited to watch the show, and I can't wait to see season 5.
Isn't that the last one?
No, there's a couple more seasons left. But
I usually wind up forgetting the exact timeline of that. What happens at the end of 4 that hooked you?
They shoot. Opie finds out that Clay killed Piney and Donna.
Right.
Fills his chest full of lead, and he somehow lives. And the cartel. It turns out the cartel is actually part of the CIA, and they basically said, "We need you to get the Irish to sell us weapons of mass destruction. If you don't, we're gonna just fuck your whole world up." Right. So he takes over. So he stays and takes over the club, and they show him. They see the transition of him and Tara transition to like John and I think or whatever.
I'm with you. I know where you are now.
Yeah. So everything those last 3 episodes dealing with all that stuff, like I was at Jen's house over the weekend watching it, and I was just like, I wouldn't like leave the table. I was like, oh my god, what happens next? And that was the first time in the entire 4 seasons that I got that excited, that like Shield level of excitement or Justified level. So I'm excited to talk about it with Jesse and Ronnie, but it's going to be more like gushing over just how soapy it is and not anything with any greater meaning to it. That's
it's look, if you take Hamlet, throw it into a biker gang, and add a lot of melodrama, you kind of got Sons of Anarchy.
Yes, and also take a drink every time they say family, and you will die. You will not make it out of a single episode.
They say that almost as much as they do in the Fast and the Furious franchise.
It's
Not quite as
awful.
much, but almost.
It's fucking awful. Anyway, my point being, we missed the May review because Ronnie can't get his fucking date straight. So we're doing season 3 and season 4 at the same time. Yum it up. That's Monday. Tuesday, I'm off. But Alexis will be here manning Damn You Hollywood, doing Garfield with Zach and possibly Robert. I'll be back Thursday. Evan Bevins, first time he'll be on the show in a while, and we're doing a comic, first time since like January, I think, because the last time was that triple feature we did on the Jennifer Garner stuff. We're back to doing comic stripped, and we're talking about Bulletproof Monk, the book, the movie, the whole 9 yards.
Oof.
Yeah.
I am sorry, man.
All right, that's what I got going on. Robert, take me home, baby doll.
So Sunday, I covered AEW's Double or Nothing event.
I heard MGF came back.
He did, unannounced.
Awesome.
To interrupt Adam Cole, who appeared unannounced after the first match. It was, I don't know, like Adam Cole came out for no reason other than to be interrupted by MJF because Cole still isn't cleared to wrestle, and MJF is ready to come back, and they didn't want to wait any longer. So he came out, he gave him a brainbuster, he cut a generic MJF promo, said he's sticking around, and whatever. That whole event, man, it's become divisive because I've seen people give it very high reviews.
Was there another 5-on-5 like clown fiesta? Like
Yeah, there was Anarchy in the arena. 4-on-4 this time around. Well, 5-on-5. Yeah, so 5-on-5. Sorry.
Okay.
I view the tag team just one person, so there's like 4, but no, they're 2 people. So yeah, no, there was that clown fiesta. Jack Perry got set on fire, and then got the pin.
Perfect. I don't watch wrestling anymore.
Allegedly, he drove over Darby Allin with a bus.
So stupid.
And yeah, then again, Darby Allin set him on fire with a flamethrower.
I might have to make Jonas watch this with me.
It went on for 30 minutes. I don't have much. So there was that. The former Edge, Adam Copeland, managed to break his leg jumping off the top of a barbed wire steel cage to elbow drop Malachi Black through a table.
Ugh.
Then finished the match and won.
Good for Adam Cole.
Hang on, Adam Copeland.
Who cares?
Well, those are 2 very different people, Mark.
Yeah, and they're both injured.
That is true. But somebody brought up that when Edge made his big return in 2020, right? Royal Rumble.
Mm-hmm.
You know how many feuds across both WWE and AEW he's lost since his return in 2020?
Well, how many? Well, okay.
You want to know who he lost it to?
Who?
Do you want to understand the epicness that you need to actually win a feud with Edge in the
Randy
last
Orton.
5 years?
Randy Orton. Who?
You needed to challenge Roman Reigns for the belt.
Okay.
He won that feud with Randy Orton.
No. Nice. All right, go ahead and finish up. I gotta go to the bathroom.
Okay, so anyway, I covered that and I didn't enjoy it as much as other people did. Is just how I'm gonna phrase that. There was no UFC event on Saturday, so I didn't have to cover anything there, but there will be this week. My regular spate of coverage is WWE SmackDown on Friday, then AEW, then UFC events on Saturday. And this week will be, again, WWE SmackDown, and then UFC 302, which is headlined by Islam Makhachev and Dustin Poirier for the lightweight belt. We're going to see if Dustin Poirier can become the first man in UFC history at lightweight or lower to win a world title fight at the age of 35 or older. Never been done before. So we're going to see how he does against Makhachev. I don't like his chances. If you want the full preview, check out the 411 Ground and Pound MMA podcast, which I record Sunday evenings. It goes live Monday mornings, where I preview, I review, I talk about the wide, wacky, wonderful world of mixed martial arts. So this time around, I talk about fights being made, Alexander Usyk being cast as Igor Vovchanchin in the Mark Kerr biopic that's starring Dwayne The Rock Johnson, because that amused me. And yeah, all combat sports related things. So that's what I got this week. And then again, no Damn You Hollywood next week. Sad panda noises. But we'll be back as soon as we can. Dude, this summer is going to suck. We've been saying it for a while, Mark, you and I both. Like, this is a wasteland. And we may as well just be out there driving across it with Mad Max. Just, hey, look, a movie.
Nice. All right, folks, thank you for joining us on this 2+ hour whining session about the state of movies
It was
and relationships.
criticism. It was not whining until the end.
Be well for
Why did that pop you like that?
For Winnie the Pooh and Tigger 2.
Hey, I'm Eeyore, and we both know it. Like, everybody calls me that.
Okay, Alexis. Be well, be safe, and behave.